the last time there was this level of carbon concentration was 11 million years ago. Okay, that was approximately when primates started walking upright. The world was very different. We do not want to return to that situation.
And one of the difficulties that we have today is because of the big disparity in the pace of demand growth between supply and demand, between demand in the OECD countries and the emerging market and developing economies. We have a hard time sometimes assessing exactly how comfortable or tight the market is, largely because we don't really measure inventories outside of OECD countries in great detail. So if we look at stocks today, OECD stocks, which is what we really measure, and we try to assess them in terms of days of OECD demand, we find that we have very comfortable stocks, or we are likely to have very comfortable stocks very soon based on our projections of supply and demand.
Around the globe, countries are seeking an advantage in the global marketplace by investing in new ways of producing and saving energy. From China to Germany, these countries recognize that the nation that leads in the clean energy economy will lead the global economy. And I want America to be that nation. I believe that it's possible in the next 20 years for vehicles to use half the fuel and produce half the pollution that they do today. But that's only going to happen if we are willing to do what's necessary for the sake of our economy, our security.
On the other side of things, publicity contains an important aspect in the EV market. Due to the recent amount of publicity from the news coverage towards the EV marketplace, this would be a great time to encourage the use of advertisements, both on the internet and in video form, but also the traditional form of just billboards and from just getting awareness out in public service announcements around the country, and also especially in states and countries around the world that are pioneering the future of EV. So, for instance, California would be a prime candidate for increased advertising efforts, and also countries such as China that are really pushing to create a better infrastructure for EV.
This is Chris from The Verge, and we are in the driver's seat of a BMW i3 today. This is the company's first mass-produced, practical, all-electric sedan. It's part of BMW's new i range of vehicles, the other being the i8, which is a hybrid supercar. So you have the full spectrum. On one end you have the exotic supercar, on this end you have the practical family hauler. Let's see what this thing can do. So the i3 doesn't really have the pickup of a $100,000 Tesla Model S, but then again, this car starts around $40,000. So all things considered, it's pretty quick.
Bringing fast charging to the home, and in the second phase into public fast charging, will really create an infrastructure that makes a huge difference. With this project, electric mobility will take a quantum step in the largest automotive market in the world. We expect China to take a leading role globally in the rollout of e-mobility.
We wanted to not just be an automotive company, so we reached out into the aerospace industries, into medical device industries, into the internet and technology industries to pull together a group of people with a diverse range of skills. Imagine the future and the environment you want to be in, and the products and the world that you want to create, and then work out how would I get to that place.
The volume in China, with the immense political power and government support behind it, because of the pollution in China, they are creating a volume that is mind-boggling over the next decade. This volume will drive the prices down and will drive manufacturing, and that is why China as a market will be the volume generator for the rest of the world if the rest of the world doesn't speed up as quickly as China is doing.
Electric mobility, especially when combined with renewable power generation, is a key contributor to a sustainable environment in the future. ABB has decided to play a lead role in this field. We are throughout the entire value chain with our renewable energy generation, with the very efficient power transport, and with the usage now in fields like e-mobility, we are contributing significantly.
We currently sit at a good time for improving the EV market, as we have combined efforts from both the government aspect of things and the market individual companies aspect of things. Both of them working together can not only make it cheaper for people that are looking to purchase electric vehicles and also the infrastructure side of things, but it also makes it cheaper for companies that are looking to move into the electric vehicle market because of breakthroughs in technology that have developed recently and through the continued efforts of companies and the government.
Sitting on large strategic reserves, and we now have a lot of experience in using those reserves. They're valuable to the market even when we don't use them. But in the last few years, we've had several cases where we did use them, and that made a difference to the market. That being said, it's very difficult to extrapolate from past incidents and predict exactly what will happen in the future.
How could we, as a tiny company with very few resources, actually make a difference? And the only way to do this was to start small, to start with a low-volume car, which is why we started with that.
I definitely can see how Elon Musk's numbers and also President Obama's goals of in the next 4 to 10 years, us seeing an improved shift of gas vehicles being shifted more towards better sustainability through both electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles, and the expansions of the hybrid vehicle market. And this is something that I think is achievable, and it just depends on how much effort we're willing to pour into this. Like Elon Musk stated, it's not a matter of will we be able to achieve this at some point, it's how hard and how fast we want to achieve it. So I think if we are able to push for it, we can achieve it in a relatively short period of time.
Available in 2 different versions. There's an all-electric, which is what we're driving, and then there's also an electric with a range extender engine in it, and it's just a little tiny 2-cylinder engine, and its only job is to keep the battery charged enough to allow the electric motors to run. Anytime that you need to go, you can just put gas in the tank and you have about 100 miles, even if you have nothing in the battery. Whereas with the all-electric version, it's just like any other EV, you got to charge it up. Renewable is obviously not a Model S competitor. It's not designed to be. If anything, it's a little bit more comparable to BMW's i3, which I've driven. You can watch my video drive of that car. But the difference is that the i3 was not designed to be a long-range EV. If you're super lucky, you could probably get 90 or 100 miles out of it. This is a true EV that GM is saying will get over 200 miles between charges, which makes it practical as far as I'm concerned.
By definition, we must move to renewable energy. I think people sometimes, how can one argue against that? Because to argue for it is to say that we will eventually run out of energy and die. Or civilization will collapse. So obviously we must find ways to produce energy in a renewable manner. The question is just how hard we should try, what pace we should go at it, and I think logically we should go as fast as we can because since we know we have to get there eventually, it's better to get to a renewable future, a sustainable future sooner rather than later. Get there before we do the environmental damage, not after. And even if one could say that well, maybe there isn't that much environmental damage, to play the devil's advocate, maybe the environmental damage, maybe it won't be that bad. Why take the chance?